Have you been going to the gym, eating healthy, getting in your protein, but you just feel like you don't look like you do? You're not losing the weight you want to lose, and you definitely don't have the sculpted tone definition you've been dreaming of. Well, if that's the case, baby girl, don't worry, I've got you, because I used to be exactly like that too. In fact, I spent the first 6 years of my fitness journey training 5 days a week in the gym, lifting super heavy, hitting lower body 3 times a week, tracking my macros, eating 1 gram per pound of body weight in protein. And for all that effort, sure, I had some results, but it was not really that impressive. I always wondered why I didn't have a more sculpted, defined lower body, and even why my upper body didn't have more shape. Versus in just 1 year later, I was able to have a complete transformation. I finally got the sculpted dream physique that I had always wanted, especially the toned legs and pop and bubble butt. And I got those results eating so much more, literally almost 1,000 calories more than I had been previously, and working out less. So if that sounds too good to be true, I promise you it's not. There is a science to it. And in this video, I'm going to explain how you too can finally get that lean, fit, toned body you've always wanted. What's going on, Fit Fam? Welcome on back to my channel. My name is Megan Janice, the founder of Nomadic Fitness, and I teach you ladies how to eat more food, not less, and how to work out smarter instead of harder, so you can build that bangin' snatched hourglass body that you've been dreaming of and maintain it year-round for life with ease. So if you're new to the channel, make sure to hit that like and subscribe, and if you're coming on back, thanks so much for joining for another video. All right, fam, 2025 is underway, and I bet a lot of you have on the mind that this is the year you're finally gonna get that bangin' body, sculpted, toned, defined, snatched in all the right places, call it what you want. But you may be very unsure exactly how you're gonna do that, because let me tell you, just going to the gym, even just lifting weights, just hitting your macros, eating enough protein is not enough. The real way that you are finally going to get that physique is cycling through the 3 phases required to build a bangin' body that you will keep year-round for life. And by the way, this is the main thing that changed for me to go from this, trying so hard for 6 years, never seeing any results, to this, just 1 year later, finally getting my dream physique and being able to maintain it with ease. The key distinction was not just hitting macros or lifting weights in the gym, which, by the way, if you're not doing those things, yes, you do need to be doing that, but that alone is not enough. I will explain how you do those things in this video, by the way. The main thing you need to be doing is making moves in a direction of your goals. So this lean, toned hourglass body that us ladies want to have is literally nothing more than quite a lot of muscle on a woman's body while also having relatively low body fat. That is it. Now, the big mistake that everybody makes is thinking if they just eat healthy, if they keep their calories kind of low, and if they go to the gym, that is going to be enough to get those results, but it is absolutely not, and I'm guessing that's why you're watching this video. Because just because you're doing those things does not mean you are doing the right amount of any of it or doing it the right way that is scientifically guaranteed for your body to be putting on more muscle mass and taking off body fat. So since we know all you need to do is gain a lot of muscle, yes, a lot more than you probably realize is what you need to really look as toned as you want. This means you need to be dedicated to one or the other. You need to be specifically either focusing on gaining muscle, being in a muscle building phase, or you are focused on losing body fat. Now, those are the 2 stages. One is the build for gaining muscle. This is where you eat more food than your body is burning. You're not doing quite as much cardio because you're trying to gain in this phase. You're trying to put something on your body that is not there right now, aka muscle that does not exist right now, so you can have that toned, sculpted, firm, tight look. Now, if you're not in that stage, the stage you should be in is fat loss, right? And this is where a lot of people are going to have to start, because a lot of people have more body fat than they want to be having right now. So they will need to be initially focusing first on fat loss and then moving to the muscle building, muscle gain phase. The only exception to this is if you are quite skinny, quite petite right now, then you would be able to move straight into muscle building and not have to cut. But most people are going to have to cut, meaning be more in the fat loss phase. So building, cutting, those are 2 of the 3 phases. Now the 3rd phase is what's called reversing, or also called a reverse diet. So reverse dieting is essentially how you get from one stage to the other, and also how you prepare yourself for the stages. So it is very, very important. So a reverse diet is where you're gradually increasing the amount of food that you eat so that your body will get adapted to that amount of food, and essentially your maintenance level, meaning you staying exactly the same as you are right now, how much muscle, how much fat you have, all of that, will start to increase. Now, like I said, most people are going to have to focus first on losing fat before they're gonna have the room to be gaining weight in a muscle building stage. So the trajectory that most people are going to need to do is first reverse, and then they are going to go into a fat loss phase. The process of being in a cut is where you're in a slight calorie deficit. So you are burning more calories than your body is consuming, and that is how you burn off the fat. You're also helping to increase your caloric deficit by getting your steps up and doing a bit more cardio. So really the idea is you want to get the fat off your body and then be moving to building as much muscle as you possibly can, because once you get lean enough, you have lots of room to be gaining some weight and really focusing on putting on all that muscle. And it's once you get to that stage that you'll really be able to maintain your physique looking so amazing, eating a ton of food year-round for life with ease. So that is where I want to get you to, baby girl, and I'm going to explain how in today's video. So you might be asking, okay, well, I have fat that I want to lose, I have weight that I want to lose, so why wouldn't I just go straight into a calorie deficit? Why would I do this reverse diet first? The reason is because you want to optimize your body for a fat loss phase. A fat loss phase takes quite a lot of effort, quite a lot of discipline, and you really want to make sure that you have the runway to lose as much fat as possible and do it correctly. So what I mean by that is you want to make sure that your body is already at a good place where you could start dropping calories. So a lot of women simply don't really eat that much at all to start, and they're not consistent with their intake. So that's the first thing, is you want to get your body adapted to a consistent intake, number one, and then you want to make sure that that intake is high enough that you will have room to drop somewhere between 500 to maybe as much as 1,000 calories throughout your deficit. So this is why I always say that really you should want to be at least 2,000 calories a day, if not quite a bit more. Now there are some exceptions to this, you know, women who are maybe quite short, women who are a bit older into their 50s, maybe they can start cutting more around 1,800 calories, but most women definitely will be able to get their calories over 2,000 a day and then be able to start dropping them for a fat loss phase. Now the other reason that you want to do a reverse before you go into a cut is honestly, most of the time you will already be able to see quite a lot of progress in the reverse itself. Because here's the thing, once you get your macros dialed in, your protein, fats, and carbs, you start eating the right amount of them for your body and your goals, which I have tons of videos on, by the way, if you don't know what that should be, so I will link it here and in the description below. But once you actually start eating consistently the right ratios of food, I mean, that alone can already start stripping off the body fat. And then when you combine that also with good quality training, doing that consistently, that is helping to bring the muscle definition on. So this combination of just already starting to be consistent with appropriate macro ratios, obviously also just eating clean generally overall, eating good quality food, and then also doing good quality training, really pushing yourself hard, hitting your muscles properly, just combining those things alone will start to make you move in the right direction, and you will already start to see some recomp, as it's called. Recomp stands for recomposition, meaning literally that you're already starting to see that some body fat is coming off and muscle is coming on. So then you might be asking, well, since we want to get this toned body, and all that a toned body is having more muscle and less fat, why can't we just stay reversing forever? Why do we ever have to go into a calorie surplus or a calorie deficit? This is because although you can see some amount of recomp in the reverse itself, there's only so much you will be able to see. You can have somewhere maybe in the 5 to 10 pound range of seeing a difference of fat loss and muscle gain while you're just reversing, but eventually you will need to commit to one of the phases. You either need to commit to being in a surplus and gaining weight, meaning you are gaining a lot of muscle, getting all that shape on your body, or you're committing to being in that calorie deficit and focusing on losing as much weight, aka body fat, as you possibly can. So this is essentially how it works. You reverse with the correct macro ratios, getting good quality strength training in. You do that first to prepare yourself to go into either of these phases. Most likely you will need to go into a cut first, unless you're very tiny, then you can go into a build. And then what's going to happen is once you finish your fat loss phase, your cut, you will once again reverse to get out of your cut. And then from there, you're gonna spend a little bit of time outside of your cut, give your body a break outside of the deficit. And if you still have more fat to lose, you will have to then go again into a second cut. Because, by the way, a lot of people think that they can lose all the weight, all the body fat they had to lose in just one cut. And unfortunately, that is just not the case, especially if you have a larger amount of body fat to lose. You're probably going to have to do at least 2 cuts to be able to lose all the weight. And that's because your average cut is going to be somewhere around the 6-month mark. Sometimes it can be a bit longer if your body's responding really well. But the thing is, there's only so much weight you can lose in 6 months, right? Like maybe you can lose around 20-ish pounds in that amount of time. Again, this is going to really just depend how much fat you have to lose. But then in some cases, you're going to need to go back and do a second cut. And usually this one might not have to be as long because you don't have as much fat to lose anymore. But nonetheless, you'll have to reverse out of your first cut, take some time there, getting your body once again adapted to a higher calorie intake, giving it a break from the deficit, then go back to your cut and then reverse out again. Now, it may be that you lost all the fat you had to lose in your first cut. So what you do is you reverse out of the cut, start bringing yourself back up. And what you're doing is you're increasing your maintenance levels so that you can maintain the results that you had in the fat loss phase where you lost all the weight from fat, and now you can maintain it at a higher calorie intake. Because of course, when you finish your cut, that's when your calories are gonna be at the lowest amount ever, and also your cardio is gonna be at the highest amount because you were trying to push the deficit as much as possible. So now what you're doing is reversing back out, slowly increasing your food so that you can maintain the results at a higher intake. So then what you would be doing is you would be moving into the actual build, the calorie surplus. And this is the phase that most women really don't ever spend any time in, and that is why most women are either stuck just genuinely overweight, or they're stuck staying with that skinny fat kind of shapeless body, aka me in the past. The reason that I was able to in 1 year get the crazy dream defined body that I had always wanted was because I finally did this phase, the calorie surplus, the build, because this is where you're really going to shape your body. And then all you're doing in a cut is chipping away at the last little bits of fluff so you can really reveal all of the muscle that you built over here. So this is why once you're lean enough, you're gonna be spending the vast majority of your time over here in your build, gaining as much muscle as you possibly can. And yes, since you're in a calorie surplus, you will be gaining a little bit of body fat. It's just natural. You can't only gain muscle. But that's why you keep your surplus minimal. You're still adhering to your macros. You're training really hard so that you're gaining a lot of muscle. And then when you go back to your cut, you just chip away at the fluff. It's quite easy to lose it, be in and out of your cut, and get back to building once again. So let me just quickly illustrate what this looks like with 2 different client examples. Here's our client Sarah, who's a 46-year-old mom of 6 kids, running a full-time marketing agency, and doing this method of first reverse dieting and then doing a cut and once again reversing out of the cut. She was able to lose 26 pounds and build a lot of amazing muscle definition, as you can see, and she is now maintaining those results. So she's a great example of somebody who you would think, why can't she just cut right off the bat? Because obviously she had a significant amount of visible body fat that she wanted to lose. But the reason we didn't just immediately rush her into a cut is because she was only averaging about 1,700 calories a day. So if we had just started to cut, she wouldn't have had very much runway to drop her calories. Since you want to have somewhere between 500 to 1,000 to drop. So if you're at 1,700, that means you'd be getting below 1,000, which is obviously just not realistic or sustainable, not something you're going to be able to do. So what we did was we started reversing her first, because also we know that your body should definitely be seeing some recomp in the reverse itself, most likely by the fact that you're consistent with your macros and you're consistent with good quality training. And that's exactly what happened to Sarah. So actually, as we started feeding her up, she did gain about 3 pounds total on the scale, which I know sounds scary, but just because you're gaining weight on the scale scale doesn't mean that you're gaining body fat. It makes sense that if you're starting to eat more food, you're going to be holding a little bit more water weight, more gut weight, and more glycogen, which is energy from carbs that we store inside of our muscles, which is actually a good thing. So even though her weight was actually going up a tiny bit in the reverse, she actually started to look better. We started to see some recomp happening in her photos. So yeah, there wasn't this big change in weight, but nonetheless, fat was coming off, muscle was coming on. Now, it wasn't drastic at this stage yet because we were still prepping her for the fat loss phase where we're going to see really the big results. So we took her all the way up to 2650 calories a day because her body was responding so well that we had the room to do it. And then from there, we went into the cut. We went into the calorie deficit, and the lowest we ever had to take her was 1940. She was able to stay there actually for quite a lot of months because she just kept dropping, that we were able to see so much fat loss without having to go very low in her intake at all. Even at the very lowest amount of her calories, she was still eating 240 more than she was when she started the program, except this time she was 26 pounds lighter. So this is literally the magic of knowing how to do these phases properly, how to reverse and then cut. And then what we've been doing since then is reversing her out of her cut and giving her a break from that whole phase, getting her calories adapted a bit higher, again, well into the 2000s, allowing her to put on some muscle. And she's an example of somebody who will have to move into a second and final cut. And this one won't be nearly as long. She'll just trim down that last little bit of fluff. Then she'll reverse out of that and move into the build for a long period of time where she can really just focus on gaining lots of muscle. All right, and then a different example of somebody who was already skinny enough that she didn't have to cut first, that actually we did reverse into the build before cutting, is my client Kaylin. So she's 39 years old, mom of 2 kids, running a full-time business, and she was just the classic skinny fat. And it was very obvious to me as to why she was skinny fat, because when she came to me, she was only eating about 1400 calories a day. Although she was tracking her macros and she actually was eating plenty of protein, she was barely eating any carbs. She was only eating about 100 grams of carbs a day. So of course, you are not going to be building any muscle if that's how little carbs you're eating. You simply do not have the fuel, do not have the resources to build that sexy toned muscle definition. So since she was already quite skinny, and yes, a little bit skinny fat, but overall fairly small, what we were able to do was first reverse her. So we started bringing her food up from 1400 calories a day. And also, by the way, she had been going to the gym 6 days a week. When she first came to me, I was able to cut her down to just 4 days a week and actually see way better results for doing that, because you don't need to work out so much. It's more about the quality of what you do. So I brought her food up, and at a point it moved over into the build. So the way that you know that you're fully transitioning into a build instead of being in a reverse is you consistently start to gain weight. And like I said, in a reverse, you know, you can maybe gain a few pounds just because of the fact that you're eating more food. But once you consistently start to see the upward trend in the scale, that's how you know that you're officially into your calorie surplus. So she went all the way from 1400 calories a day up to 2800, and she ended up eating 380 grams of carbs a day, meaning she was almost having 4 times as many carbs as when she started. So at this point, she'd gained about 15 pounds in her build, and it was from there that we finally moved into her calorie deficit, into her cut. Because what had happened was we had built all kinds of amazing great shape, and now all we had to do was actually just trim away at the fluff to really reveal that snatched, toned hourglass physique. So we spent 6 months cutting, going from 2800 calories a day and finishing at 1800. So again, you see that was 1,000 calorie drop right there. The absolute lowest intake was 1800. Most of the time she was around 2000. And in the cut, she lost as much weight as she had gained, but this time had a totally new body to show. So when she had started the program, she was 135 pounds, and when she finished her build and cut, she was also 135 pounds, but looking completely different because now it was all muscle and not a whole lot of body fat. And this is the other really cool part about doing a reverse well, is that she's now at around 2400 calories a day, and her weight has overall been mostly maintaining, which is crazy because that means she's eating 600 calories more and she's not really yet gaining that much weight. So again, this is where you know, is it a reverse or is it an actual build? Are you in the calorie surplus? And since she's not really gaining weight yet, this just indicates to me as her coach that I need to keep feeding her up, which I will be doing, so that we're going to actually cross over into the build territory, into the calorie surplus territory put on more muscle, and then in the next few months, we will once again do a cut so that she can be nice and lean, toned and defined for summer. All right, fam, so that's how you do it. That is why it is not enough just to eat healthy, even to be tracking your macros, getting your protein, and going to the gym. You need to be actively moving in the direction of either putting on the muscle in your calorie surplus or losing the body fat in your deficit, or that you're prepping with a reverse or transitioning from one phase to the other with a reverse. Now, I know that this is all quite overwhelming. There's a lot to know, and this is why there are people who dedicate their entire lives to this, because there is so much to know on this topic. So that is why we offer a one-to-one coaching service where we literally get this exact transformation for so many women of all different ages, all different starting points and backgrounds. So if you'd like to have your hand held through the entire process, not have to think at all what you should be doing, how much to be eating, when to change your macros, what you should change them to, what to be doing in the gym. That is exactly what we do as coaches in our one-to-one program. So if you're interested, you can click on the link below to apply. We'd love to have a chat with you and see if we can help you once and for all build that snatch toned hourglass body and keep it for good. All right, fam, thank you so much for checking out this video. Now next, I want you to go watch this one here where I'm gonna break down how to calculate your macros, how to know what is the right amount of protein, fats, and carbs for you, and also how you're going to be able to adjust them over time so you can build all that muscle and keep the body fat levels low. So I'll see you in that video.